Primarily, this video is going to be speculation about how Baker Mayfield could play for the Carolina Panthers in 2022. It's a difficult proposition to undertake, to be honest with you, because you have such disparate film from not just from 2021, but from his entire career. And we'll take a look at his stats here in a moment. Generally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at gameplay from Baker Mayfield in 2020 and 2021 when we could presume that he was healthy based on how he played. And I'll be honest with you, this video could probably end up being pretty long, possibly as long as 30 or 40 minutes. I was asked to do this video by a couple of Browns fans on Twitter, and I, once I got into it, I thought that it deserved a lot of attention, some lengthy study. You may agree with some of the things I say, and you may not. And I would be remiss, however, without offering some comment on the entire situation with the Browns. Look, the way the front office there acquired Deshaun Watson in March, and then now we're in July before any resolution might finally occur. And they may get the best possible resolution in terms of Watson being able to play after 6 games in 2022. So good for them as a Browns team. But man, if you're a player and you look at how that situation was handled or mishandled, what would make you sign with the Browns really? Let's be honest. Deshaun Watson didn't have a lot of choices. I know that there were a lot of teams there were 3 teams that he had on his list, I guess. But knowing what we know now about the situations and the things that he was involved in Houston, I think there will be a lot of teams that are glad that they weren't on his list. And look, they seem to be running things like a Madden franchise. Yeah, picking up Deshaun Watson is potentially good since he's talented and he's got a proven track record of making plays. But I was really shocked at watching how they dealt with Baker Mayfield, and that's coming from a Ravens fan, mind you. Okay, I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan. I'm not a Browns fan. But I try to stay balanced when I'm looking at film, and it helps me with my opinions overall, try to stay balanced. He was clearly playing hurt near the end of 2021. Significantly hurt if you watch them last 2 games. For the Browns to handle his exodus like that, you can say it doesn't matter because, it's a professional sports league. And you're right. But I'm going to link this to something here, and I'm going to link it to the Ravens later on. You can say that it doesn't matter, but I think it does. This is now the 2nd veteran player in a row who's had a really sloppy exit from the Browns. I'm talking about Odell Beckham Jr. in early midseason 2021. And how the Browns were unable to keep that situation, from going bad and ending in his release. Baker Mayfield's situation, he played the whole season, absent the final game, the win against the Bengals that didn't mean anything, and clearly played hurt near the end of the season for various reasons. But that's 2 veterans in a row, guys that are productive players. Now, you can say they didn't want those 2 guys. Fine, but that's not the point, so don't miss it. Here it is. The point is the way the Browns treated those 2 guys, they reduced the potential trade value of both of those players. Correct me if I'm wrong, they got nothing in return for OBJ. Nothing. And in my opinion, that's what makes the Baker Mayfield situation mishandled after the season ended. They got next to nothing in return for him. He didn't play in the last week of the season. People had a suspicion that things weren't gonna work out. They didn't trade him until June 26th, June 25th? I have my dates wrong there, I know. There was value in Odell Beckham Jr. when they released him, and there was value in Baker Mayfield. All they got is a conditional 5th-round pick in return for trading Mayfield and jettisoning OBJ. It's difficult to imagine those 2 scenarios being handled worse. One guy's been productive at times in his career, that's Mayfield. The other guy's been a bona fide star, Odell Beckham Jr. That's 2 in a row that the Browns managed to get rid of and just lose value on. Now, you can say, well, they got Deshaun Watson back, Coach. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's true. They did get Deshaun Watson. They gave up a crap ton of draft picks and value to get him as well. If you look at those 2 situations collectively in terms of veterans that they're getting rid of, I don't think they've handled them well. I'm done with that. Forgive the indulgence. I'll let that go. In 2021, obviously Baker Mayfield had his worst statistical season. But I think we should look a little closer, okay? And I'll let you look at the stats here from him. Clearly, he's only had a winning record in 1 out of every 3 seasons. So the ceiling that you're talking about, Is it making it to the AFC divisional playoff round like they did in 2020 up there against the Chiefs? And they did put on a good showing, even though I think they were down 22-3 at one point. I think we should look a little bit closer. I always try to. I always feel like one of my favorite sayings is it's not that simple. And I don't think his season was that simple either. 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But if you look at it and you break it apart, up through their Week 9 win over the Bengals, and I'm going to switch the screen here. This is his first 8 games of the season, culminating in that blowout win over the Bengals, 41-16 in Week 9. Baker Mayfield was playing well. So when I say playing well, he was playing similar to how he did in 2020. Let's check out the stats. Now, I did a little bit of math here. Feel free to double check me. I did the math twice. You got 8 games played here. He didn't play in that Week 7 win over the Broncos. They won 17-14. Against the Bengals a week later in Week 9, Mayfield's 14 of 21, 2 touchdowns, 215 yards passing, 218 yards passing, it looks like. 132 QB rating. At that point, through 8 games played, they're 5-4. The Browns are 5-4. And here's his stats to that point. 150 for 225. That's 67% complete. It's 66.6, but it rounded up to 67% completion percentage. That will be his career high for a season, although this was only an 8-game stretch. 8 TDs to 3 interceptions passing, 1,900 yards passing, and 6 of those 8 games, you can see he had a QB rating of 90 or better. So if you take those 8 games and then you double it, prorate it for 16 games played, what you end up with is 3,800 yards passing, 16 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and like I said, 67% completion percentage, which is pretty good. That's his career best, obviously, as I mentioned. But, we know he finished the season poorly, and that's the part that I think if you're a Panthers fan, you are hopefully hanging your hat on somewhat, which is, so check this out. At this point, we're at 67% completion percentage as a quarterback, for the first 9 weeks of the season, first 8 games. Thereafter, all right, let's note the completion percentage. We end up with, 6 interceptions in the last 2 games, them losses to the Packers and the Steelers. And then he sat out the Browns win over the Bengals like I talked about earlier, right? But let's note the completion percentage. I went and calculated the attempts and completions up through Week 9, and then I did it again from Week 10 to Week 17. At one point, he was 150 for 225, so 67%. All right? For real proof that something was really, really wrong in terms of his health, probably, he finished the season at 60%. That's unbelievable. So he was so poor completion percentage-wise in the second half of the season that 67% dropped all the way down to 60. So starting in Week 10, that was an awful game for the team and for him. 45-7 loss at New England. He was like 11 for 20 for 73 yards. And overall in these games I'm showing you here, stats-wise, 103 for 193. 54% completion percentage. Huge difference, right? From what we had seen up through Week 9. A huge drop-off. That's what it took to get him down to, 60% at the end of the season. Look, I'm going to fire up some film. I have a lot to say about it because it kind of does matter to me about how quarterbacks are treated, especially ones that are young. I mean, I know he is 27, at this point. If you're the Browns and you want to go get Watson, fine, cool. You're getting a really good player, understood, for whenever he can play. But there was more value to be had in Baker Mayfield, if you ask me. This first section of plays is going to be goal line plays. He's really good at making quick decisions for real. And this concept is one of his favorites, where they've got a tight end and a running back into the boundary, to the short side of the field. In this case, it looks like they're playing man with this corner on the tight end, and then they're playing man with the linebacker on the running back. And he's really good on these concepts. They get a little bit of a screen pick here by the tight end, and he sees it, fires the ball out there. Simple. Makes quick. When he has decisions available to him and he understands his coverage, he makes real quick decisions. I got no complaints watching, the way he makes some of these decisions down in the goal line. Same setup here against the Steelers, 2020. Tight end, running back, down into the boundary. See how quick the ball gets out. Really, really poor coverage, if you ask me, by this safety here. Now, they're a little confused with covering this running back out into the flats, But this safety here sits too high. Eyes on the quarterback the whole time. Baker Mayfield throws the ball out there. Easy touchdown, obviously. In some of these specific situations, goal line stuff, quick decisions, in 2020, and then some film from 2021 that I'll show you in a couple minutes, I mean, he looked pretty good. If this is the guy that shows up to Carolina, they can do some things. For real. I mean, do I think that, he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? I mean, I don't know. He's going to miss throws. But some of the situations he was throwing to guys in Cleveland, they didn't exactly have great matchups. This is a little slant concept and a fade out. Really, I call it a fade out. It's number 2. Not bad coverage, at all. Ball's thrown maybe here, maybe you would like this ball to be thrown here, but he's trying to keep the ball away from the defender. Pretty good coverage. Kansas City in 2020 and 2021, their defense was historically bad at certain times of both of those seasons. And they were lining up late. Baker Mayfield found a matchup he wanted, unable to complete the pass. Look, I think that you could get a guy that shows up in Carolina who could do good things if you put him in the right situation. Is he capable of playing in any offense? No, he's not capable of playing in the Ravens offense, or the Eagles offense, but he's capable of playing in the shotgun. I'm going to give you 5 plays here from 2020. He understands he's got a man-to-man situation up here. This is when they went down to Tennessee and really took it to the Titans. Around about mid-season, I believe. It's a one-on-one. It's a perfectly thrown ball. A lot of teams cover trips like this. They'll just play man on number 1, and then they'll some kind of combination of playing 3 over the interior 2 receivers, the number 2 and number 3 receiver. Outside release, easy touchdown. You can see how good the arm looks. He's got a strong arm. For those of you that don't know, he played in a spread system in high school. His high school team would have whipped your high school team and mine too. They were elite in Texas. Great throw. Arm strength is there when healthy. Cover 2, I believe, situation here is going to be a blown coverage by, I think, this guy here for the Chiefs. He's worried too much about this vertical coming across the field. And Tyrann Mathieu also lets the guy cross his face and turns his hips really, really slow. But in any case, this safety's he's worried about this, and this guy's wide open. It's number 1 receiver down here to the boundary. But the crazy thing is, it's a great play by the safety, 48, 49, something like that. Ends up forcing a fumble before the guy gets to the end zone, and it's a touchback. Kansas City does too much. Kansas City's defense tries to be too cute, to be honest with you. They did this too much, where they lined up somebody in the box and then ran him out to play too high safety. You're not putting the player in a position to be ready at that third level of the defense if he only lined up 4 yards off the ball. But in any case, great effort here, forcing a fumble before the ball crosses the goal line. Pretty sure that was ruled a touchback, but I might be wrong. Playoffs against the Steelers, I believe it was the playoffs. They're going to motion Jarvis Landry across. This is a great concept. The tight end down here, the number 1 receiver, is going to run a little slant. He's basically shielding the defender who went in motion with Landry. And Landry's going out, and what he's doing is he's letting that tight end clear through that space in the middle of the field, and then Landry's going to run onto it. You can see this guy's going first. He's the first guy through. Now Landry's going to push off his outside foot. It's a great throw to dodge the DB. I think it was Minkah Fitzpatrick in there. And then Landry gets in the end zone. I'd like to see the end zone angle. You let me know what you think. I mean, you've heard analysis of Baker Mayfield about completion percentage. I talked about that a lot. I would rather talk about individual plays. I feel like that's my strength. Got a strong arm, at least at this point. I mean, there's the potential for that ball to be tipped by Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is lined up at the line of scrimmage, drops out of there. Baker Mayfield's got the arm to make these throws. I feel like he'd be really good in a Bill Walsh, West Coast offense style of play, because he's really good when getting rid of the ball quickly. Last one I'm going to show you. This is also 2020 film. Last one I'm going to show you from shotgun. Then we're going to go to under center, because, of course, we know the Browns ran the ball a lot. And they ran the ball a lot under center. And so he benefited from that play action stuff. Similar concept to what we just saw against the Steelers, except this time he throws it to the first guy through. Right, I showed you the routes. That's the first guy through, which is the same concept I just showed you for that 3rd and 4 against the Steelers. And then the second guy through is outside releasing slightly and then running onto that open space. In this case, it's man again, and Baker Mayfield just throws it to the first guy to get the first down on 3rd and 6. If Baker Mayfield is comfortable in the offense in Carolina with some of the weapons they have, I think he can succeed. I certainly think he'll win the job over Sam Darnold. You guys, tell me what you think. I don't think he'll have, unless Christian McCaffrey is, completely healthy and back to being the guy that he was, before all of his injuries. I don't think he'll have the same running back talent. Even though they do have, some other guys that are quite talented. 2 plays from under center in 2020. Big on play action. One of the things in the Browns offense, this is a pre-snap indicator that's probably pass and play action. When you get a tight end or a fullback who motions back into the backfield, and you'll see a couple other examples of this in this video. Play action concept. This is a great throw. A downfield example of the same concept I just talked about. You're going to get one guy going through, and then the second guy is going to run onto that same space, that same area of the field, which has been essentially cleared out. So similar concept to the last 2 plays I showed you, except they're operating downfield in it. I mean, it's a classic concept. You can run it against zone. You can run it against man. I think he's really good under center at getting back here, planting off his back leg, making his read, and then delivering the football all in one smooth motion. I think that looks really good. And that's coming from a Ravens fan. I'm certainly not a Browns fan, right? 13 personnel here. You got 2 tight ends up top, 1 tight end down here. But sometimes you can be a little too predictable under center, and teams know it. So the Chiefs are going to overload the coverage down to this bottom side of the field. You're getting a clear out route by this number 1 receiver, a Z, and then this little out by the tight end, and there's just nobody to throw the ball to. Some situations, Baker Mayfield does the right thing, most of the time. I'm going to show you 2 situations, however, where he tries to force the football and ends up turning it over. I do think that turnovers have been an issue for him. I think turnovers are an issue for a lot of young quarterbacks. It's not something that every quarterback doesn't struggle with at certain points. All right, 2021 film. Now, I could show you plays from the last 3 weeks of the season. Again, he only played 2 of those games, but I'm not going to. I don't feel like showing you injured Baker Mayfield film helps anyone try to understand what he can do well. I've shown you 3 situations I think he excels in. I think he does a good job down in the goal line, even though he's missed some opportunities, and I will show you one from here early in 2021 where he missed a chance to throw a touchdown to Odell Beckham Jr. on an out fade, what I would call out fade. He's also good in the shotgun, making quick decisions. And then this under center play action stuff. This is against the Bengals in Week 9 in that blowout win. Watch where he throws this football from. I mean, first of all, I've done a one-play video of this safety being completely oblivious to the number 1 receiver running by him. He throws this football from the 30 and then gets slightly hit by a defensive lineman. Watch where the ball's caught. That ball's caught on like the 16, 15, something like that. Pretty long, impressive throw, if you ask me. Arm strength is there. Ability to read defenses is there. Is he a locker room problem? I don't know. I know when those questions first started to come out, again, you get an example of Von Bell, and I think Von Bell is a hell of a football player. I said that in the other video I talked about. Having no knowledge, no awareness of this number 1 receiver running right by him, not helping the safety at all. Not helping the corner at all. Eli Apple looked like he was expecting deep help, and there was none there. Under center again, this time against the Chiefs. This is a regular season. I think he played quite well in this game, to be honest with you. I do not recall his stats. This, to me, is a fantastic throw. Up to the top side of the field. They did this a lot with Jarvis Landry. I showed you the play against the Steelers when he motioned down here and then ran to out and in. caught it over the middle, took off for a touchdown. Now they're motioning him again to the outside. He brings the route all the way to the far sideline because the ball, Baker's down here on this hash and throwing the ball to the far sideline. This is a long throw. I don't think every quarterback in the NFL makes this throw this strong. Look, he's releasing the ball before Landry's obviously even turned around. He's in the middle of making his cut. Tough coverage. Great throw, if you ask me. I think I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it. Are there turnovers that he had in 2021? Absolutely. And I will show you one or maybe two of them here. And I don't think that this Chiefs defense was very good. We're Ravens fans. We have to admit, we skunked their defense in week 2 at home. But first of all, that game was one that looked like the Chiefs were going to win for large parts of it, number one. And number two, that defense was historically bad early in the season. Odell Beckham Jr. is up here as the number one receiver. He's going to run, we would call an out fade. Some people run what's called a fade out, so they make it look like a fade, and then they bring it back to the sideline as out. It's a cool route. I think Odell Beckham Jr. I would almost say he will always have this level of effectiveness down in the goal line. He seems to have that short area quickness and that knowledge of how to get open, anywhere, but especially down in the goal line. It seemed to me, especially once he went to the Rams, he had a tremendous impact down on the goal line. You may remember his 4th and 5 catch against the Ravens to basically keep them in the game down in around about like the 7-yard line, maybe the 5-yard line. And then I think 2 plays later, maybe 1 play later, he had the game go-ahead touchdown catch. So he's great down in the goal line, and this is a poor throw by Baker Mayfield, if you ask me. This ball is way too far overthrown. OBJ has zero chance to catch this ball. So, by no means am I trying to tell you that, Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback who's going to lead your team to a Super Bowl no matter who, he plays for. No. With the right pieces, I think Carolina's defense is going to be pretty good. I think there's a lot of throws he can make. Play action, so much to say about this play. He's going to throw the ball over the middle here. Clearly, he's got 2 receivers running right next to each other, wide open. Ball ends up being incomplete because Chuck Clark makes a great play. Could you say you want to throw it to one of those open guys? Absolutely. They're both wide open. Wide open, 2 of their tight ends. I think that's Hooper and Njoku. I can't remember how to say the guy's name. Either one of them, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, there's times where Baker Mayfield is trying to be a little too hungry. Maybe get the ball downfield more, and there's people that are open for the short, the simple play. But there's a lot of quarterbacks who do that. Look, we've said that about Lamar this last year in 2021, that he threw the ball downfield so much that we had some times where we could have just moved the chains with a 6, 8, 10-yard gain. Having said that, it is a throw that is probably 3 feet too high, maybe 2 feet too high. Is it catchable? Yeah. Is it catchable 95% of the time? Yeah. Probably not. Is it catchable 70, 80% of the time? I would offer to you that it is. Strong throw. Poor decision by him, if you ask me. Again, you get this motion by the fullback back into the backfield, which to me has oftentimes indicated a play action pass. And you're going to get an over concept from the other side of the field here. But Baker Mayfield's not getting time to deliver that because he's got a safety blitzing off the edge right in his face. So he understands the plays. I think he's a smart player. I think he's a really smart player. In the heat of the moment, certain times, does he make bad decisions? Absolutely. But I think he's a smart player, got awareness of the play concepts, where people are supposed to be. Tight ends are smart too. Underrated smart. Watch 81, who is the guy who catches the football here. Presumably, he's being read by this weak side linebacker. Stutter step for a moment, make him think that he was going to scoop inside to go block someone, and then 54 got his eyes in the backfield, lost connection with the tight end. Last set of plays that I want to show you for this video is going to be Baker Mayfield in the shotgun, and this is 2021 film. I know this video has gone on quite long. Again, I'm not going to show film from his last 2 games played because I think they were quite poor. He was 16 of 38 one game. I think even worse the next. This is a great throw. An anticipation throw, if you will, on a 3rd down. Attacking the Ravens coverage, bringing the running back out into the flat. All right, they're going to run one guy on a vertical, running him through, and his job is to carry the corner. Get the corner to go with you. And then Baker Mayfield's going to drop it to this number 2 receiver who just ran by the linebacker. It's a zone coverage concept by the Ravens. But all zone becomes man at some point, and essentially it's the same concept I showed you 3 times already. One guy's running through the zone, carrying a defender through the zone, and then the second guy is running onto that space that's created by the vacated defender who's running with the first offensive receiver through the zone. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Browns use that concept repeatedly. Steelers early in the season, again, a deep throw outside the numbers. Similar concept here. 2 receivers almost stacked on top of each other, but definitely closely aligned. Same concept. One guy running through the zone, even though this is not zone coverage, it's man. Second guy running into that space that's created as that receiver runs through the zone. And in this case, he beats the guy man to man. Some of these concepts, Baker Mayfield has the arm to throw. He has the ability to read it, obviously. Look at this one. To me, this is a very strong throw. Looks like sprint out to the offense's left. So sprint out would be like, the running back leading off to the edge, and the quarterback following him, generally looking to throw the ball to his left, which would be off screen to our right. Baker Mayfield, though, when healthy, has the kind of arm that he can flip his hips and throw this thing back to the other side of the field. Cool design where they've really isolated that DB number 21 and kind of attacked him by design. Empty formation against the Bengals. I felt like watching him against the Bengals. He had a great read on the Bengals coverages. We didn't, as Ravens coaching staff and players, we didn't have a great read. They seemed to be a step ahead of us. It was the exact opposite with the Browns. The Browns seemed to have them figured out. Even in these situations where, look, the Bengals are dropping 8 defenders right now inside that box. You've got a 3-man rush right here. Baker Mayfield's going to hit the running back, which I believe is Chubb, up the right sideline. What they've done is they've run the running back and one of the tight ends vertical. You got 2 verticals here against this cover 3 on one side of the field, kind of close together. What that calls for, some people call it different things. This corner has to do what's called divider technique. He's got to be in between both of those verticals so that he can react to either one of them. Well, the running back kind of sits up a little bit, slows down right here, versus the number 2 who carries this vertical. Corner's got to go with him, leaves that area vacated. That's a long throw. Of course, I mean, there's dozens of NFL quarterbacks who can make that throw, but that's impressive to me, especially given that he's on one read over here to this side, comes back to the other side of the field. Definitely his second read, maybe the third. That's a guy who's healthy. And I don't think he could make that throw in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season. If the unhealthy version of Baker Mayfield shows up to Carolina, it'll be an absolute failure. Guy that shows up that can make quick decisions like this, has some confidence. I kind of like Baker Mayfield, to be honest with you. I kind of like the whole dynamic about how he wasn't recruited much and then went, transferred to Oklahoma, won the Heisman. Of course, some of his antics, though, I mean, some of the things he did, we've all seen the video. I'm not here to comment on those things, but some of those things are a real turnoff. Quick decisions, strong arm, has won games in the NFL, likes to throw to the running backs on screens, get the ball out quick like you see here. Let those guys make plays. He's a facilitator, clearly. He's not a playmaker. The decision-making that sometimes has been poor. The Chiefs are doing all this stuff where they move guys around. This guy's going to drop down. Somebody else is going to drop in the center of the field. I think this ends up being like a cover 2, like a weird version of a cover 2, where here's your deep half safety, here's your deep half safety. And they did this a lot with Tyrann Mathieu, where he's essentially being the high hole dropper in the cover 2, the middle of the field. Baker Mayfield is going to scramble, and my apologies, wrong play. Quick decision on that play. That's you're getting 2 hook routes and a vertical, and Baker Mayfield he lets it develop. and then brings the ball over here to this hook route right here. Easy stuff for him. My apologies. That was the same coverage I was describing, though. Another goal line situation. This one's an interference call. Not thrown as well, but it's the same concept I showed you earlier. You got the running back and a tight end on the same side. Running back going out into the flats. Tight end running kind of like a fade. He elects to throw it to the fade and man-to-man. It's not an awful thrown ball, but it's thrown a little bit too high. They did call interference on the defense, just so you know. All right, so it looks like I don't have that play of him throwing an interception. I'm gonna try to find it real quick. It looks like I don't have that play of him throwing an interception against the Chiefs. There were I thought I had 2 interceptions in this video. Clearly, I do not. Let me know what you think. Of the idea of this video, a more in-depth film study of a player, whether it's a Ravens player or not. I would prefer to do this for Ravens players, but I've generally already done that for a lot of them. 30-minute video might be too long to hold some people's attention. I thought that watching the film of Baker Mayfield, I thought I saw a guy who could still play well in the NFL. I did not see a guy who got tricked by a lot of coverages. I didn't. He threw 13 interceptions last year. 6 of them were in the last 2 games of the season that he played. And again, I didn't show that film because he looked compromised. He looked completely unhealthy. And I'm going to link this to an issue that the Ravens had this year, to be honest with you. I think the NFL and front offices get this wrong. When they let players go out there that are not playing healthy, I think they get it wrong when they keep it quiet. Maybe they even lie on the injury report. I know that you're not supposed to do that. I know teams have been fined before for that situation, but clearly it happens. And the NFL knows this stuff is happening. I think it puts the players in a really difficult situation when they're trying to win now. Maybe they're in the final year of their rookie deal, or maybe they know they're going to lose 2 or 3 players for free agency the following year. So they're trying to get back on the field and give the team the best chance to win. Personally, the reason that issue is near and dear to my heart is because of Lamar Jackson. Clearly the Browns mismanaged this situation with Baker Mayfield, and they mismanaged the situation with OBJ as well. But think about this in terms of Lamar. A lot of us last year thought Lamar was banged up around like week 5 or 6 before the Bengals game. There was a lot of us in the chats that were talking about Lamar being injured, not being 100%, that he was playing hurt. Imagine he played at a reduced performance level. Well, I mean, he did after the Week 9 win over the Vikings, right? Look at the way he's been judged by people who don't understand context, who don't want to consider the context of the injuries to the rest of the team. Ravens was missing running backs, offensive linemen, right? Rashad Bateman missed the first 5 games of the season. As he came back, Sammy Watkins missed, I thought, a couple of games later in the year. Certainly wasn't healthy. To me, it's not much of a stretch to say Baker Mayfield was in a somewhat similar situation from the standpoint of his own health, and it cost him clearly because the Browns lost, all faith in him, and from what we've heard, he was frustrated and said and or did some things in or around the locker room that turned off the rest of the team. Those things are probably true. And you're talking about competitors who know they can play at a high level, but for whatever reason right now are unable to do so. And the way that I link it to Lamar is I would never want to see something like that happen to him. Happen to our quarterback. Even though I'm not a Browns fan, I'm able to try to put myself in their shoes and Baker Mayfield's shoes and say, yes, I'm a competitor. I want to get out on the field. Now I'm pissed off and angry because you're judging me when I'm trying to do the right thing to help this team win. So I have a little bit of a problem with the NFL and front offices kind of quietly approving those situations because they're not the ones putting forth any of the risk in terms of their long-term health, their reputation, their ability to make more money with their next contract, or in the case of Baker Mayfield, just keep their freaking job, with the team that they've, obviously put a lot of time, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears out there on the field for. Let me know what you think of my thoughts, kind of the evaluation I've given of Baker Mayfield, a guy who I think can still be successful in the NFL to a certain extent if he's surrounded by the right pieces. I think that applies to a lot of quarterbacks. If you're asking me, if you're going to ask me, is he a top 10 quarterback? Obviously not. A top 20, top 25. I don't know. I'm not really good at those things because I don't care about them. To be real, I just care about, does the film show a person who can be effective at this time? Yes. The film I've shown you tonight does. Did I pick the film to show you tonight? Of course I did. I did not show you the film of the last 2 weeks of the season, last 3 weeks. I did think I had a couple of interceptions in here, specifically one against the Chiefs that was pretty bad. Let me know what you think of the video in the comments section. If you'd like to see me do one of these for a different player in the NFL, I would love to. I would love to. I have considered doing one of these videos on Yannick Ngakoue, guy who briefly played for the Ravens, went to the Raiders for a year, and has now moved on. Because I look at some of those guys with their career trajectory, at one point looking like an all-pro type player every year, maybe even not necessarily Yannick Ngakoue, but maybe even a fringe Hall of Fame player for certain other people, and then having a drop-off and moving from team to team. It's like, what happened? Is there anything in the film that can explain it to us? So if you have any ideas, suggestions, or anything like that, please let me know. Appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now.